We've talked about a lot of new things in Chapter 1. Let's go over everything we've talked about. Please make sure you have your notebook in front of you to take notes and to work some of these problems out. Okay, so the few things that we went over this chapter were place value, ways to read and write numbers. So we had standard form, word form, expanded form. We talked about rounding numbers, and then we talked about adding and subtracting numbers up to 1,000,000. So let's go ahead and we're going to start with place value. I'm going to work a problem out, and then I'm going to give you a problem to work out, and I'm going to go over both of them just so we have a good review of everything we've learned this chapter. All right, so the first question asks us, what is the value of the digit in the 10,000s place? The first thing that we need to do is identify, well, what number or what digit is in the 10,000s place. What is my 10,000s place? That would be our 9. And then it's asking for value. I don't want to know the place value. I want to know how much that number is worth. It's in my 10,000s place, and there's a 9 in my 10,000s place. So that 9 is worth 90,000. That's the value of that digit. 90,000 would be the answer to that question. I'm going to pose the next question to you. What is the value of the digit in the thousands place? So go ahead and look at this number, 398,217. And on your screen, I want you to tell me what the value is. Okay, the value of this digit in the thousands place would be our 8. That would be the digit in our thousands place, and that 8 is worth 8,000. That would be the value of that digit, 8,000. So that's what place value is all about. We need to identify the place value we're talking about. It helps if we write down that number and underline the place value. And then when I want the value of the digit, I want to know how much is that digit worth. Let's go ahead and take a look at rounding. So we learned a little rhyme to help us remember how to round. Our rhyme was find your number and underline it. Look next door, and we drew a little arrow over the number we looked next door. 5 or more, add 1 more to the underlined digit. 4 or less, just ignore. Whatever way we're doing, if we're adding 1 more or if we're just ignoring, the digits after our underlined digit, after the number we're rounding to or the place value we're rounding to, those extra digits are going to turn to 0. Let's go ahead and take a look at a number we need to round. So this problem says round to the nearest thousands place. So what I would do is I would write down this number on my paper, and then I would underline my thousands place, and I would draw an arrow over my neighbor. And I would sing my little rhyme to myself. 5 or more, add 1 more. 4 or less, just ignore. And I'd look at my number, and because my 2 is less than 4 or less, I'm going to ignore these 3 digits, and my number would round to 37,000. So that would be my answer to this problem. Round to the nearest thousands place. I'd underline my thousands place, look at my neighbor, and then say my rhyme. Go ahead and give this next one a shot. It says round to the nearest 100,000s place. Your 5 is in the 100,000s place. Its neighbor that I'm going to put an arrow on is my 6. Again, I would say my little rhyme. So 5 or more, add 1 more. 4 or less, just ignore. And because my 6 is 5 or greater, I'm going to add 1 more to my underlined digit. And then I'm going to ignore the rest of my numbers, which means this number is going to round to 600,000. That's what you should have gotten, 600,000 as your answer. All right. The next thing that we're going to look at is the different ways that we can read and write numbers. So we have 3 different number forms. We have standard form, word form, and expanded form. And I want to point out a few things about these 3 different forms. The first thing is standard form. That's just your normal way that you see numbers. And notice how the different colors represent the different periods. So my 531 is in my thousands period, and my 205 is in my ones period. When we read this number, we read a period at a time. So I would read my thousands period first, 531, and then I would say my period name, 1000. So in word form, I have 531, 1000. That's what you see in red. And then I would read the next period, which is my ones period, 205, and that's what you see in blue. So we read one period at a time, we write one period at a time. Expanded form, we break our number down by place value. So we have to take the value of all of those digits and separate them all out. So when I'm looking at 531, I have my 5, and that's in my 100,000s place, so it's worth 500,000. My 3 is in my 10,000s place, and it's worth 30,000. My 1 is in the thousands place, it's worth 1,000. My 2 in the next period is in my hundreds place, it's worth 200, and my 5 is worth 5. So those are our three number forms. Let's take a look at this next problem. I want you to answer this question. What is 706,316 in standard form and expanded form? Go ahead and answer these questions now. All right, in standard form, I would read one period at a time. So I would read 706, and I would write that first. I'm going to do standard form first. So I would write 706. 1,000, when I read my period, I'm going to put my comma. And then I would read the next three numbers, 316, and I would write those numbers, 316. That would be my standard form for this number. My expanded form, I would break down my standard form by place value. So I have my 7 in my 100,000s place. My 6 is in my thousands place and worth 6,000. My 3 in my hundreds place is worth 300. My 1 in my tens place is worth 10. And my 6 in my ones place is worth 6. So here I have my standard form and my expanded form for the number 706,316. All right, that's that problem. For this next problem, we're going to go from expanded form to standard form and word form. Go ahead and answer this problem now. All right, when we're going from expanded form to standard form, we've talked about making sure we don't miss a place value, and that's really important. It's easy to forget a place value here. So what I'm going to do is take a look at my greatest place value, my greatest number, and my greatest place value is going to be the 100,000s place. So when I'm starting in standard form, I'm going to start out with lines that indicate the 100,000s place, and then I'm going to go and fill all those place values in. My 6 is in my 100,000s place, so it's going to go in the 100,000s place. My 2 is in my thousands place. My 5 is in my hundreds place. My 1 is in my tens place, and my 3 is in my ones place. And then all I have to do is fill in my 0. So this number in standard form would be 602,513. From standard form, I can easily go to word form. I'm going to read one period at a time. So I'm going to start with 602. And then I say my period name when I see my comma, which is 1,000. And then I read my ones place, or my ones period, as 513. And I would write 513 in words. And that's how I go from expanded form down to standard form and word form. Expanded form to standard form, write all those little lines so you don't miss a place value. And then word form, we're going to read one period at a time. Next up, we have some word problems to take a look at. I'm going to do the first one for us, and then you're going to work out the next ones. Remember, you can always work these problems out with me as well. Okay, the first one says Susan and Tim have a total of 56,218 miles to drive. Tim will drive 34,581 miles. How many miles will Susan drive? So there's a few things about this problem. I'm going to be looking at my wholes and my parts, and I need to identify what is my whole, what is my part, am I missing a part, am I missing my whole, what exactly am I missing? I can draw my diagrams to help me with this as well. Susan and Tim have a total of 56,218. This tells me that's going to be my whole. So when I have my diagram, 56,218, that's going to be my whole. Tim is going to be one part, and then Susan is going to be the other part. So Tim is going to drive 34,518 miles. That's how much he's committed to drive. And what I want to find out is how many miles will Susan drive. I need to find what is Susan going to drive. So I'm going to split this up. I have my whole, which is in green, and I have one of my parts. I have my 34,581. And what I'm going to need to do is figure out, well, how much is Susan going to drive? What's my other part going to be equal to? Because I have a whole and one part and I'm missing my other part, we can see here that if I were to take what's in blue and orange, it would equal my green. So basically we have 34,581 plus whatever Susan drives would equal my whole of 56,218. This setup right here is a really good way for me to check my work at the end and make sure that, yes, in fact, my two parts do add up to my whole. In order for me to solve this problem, though, I'm going to need to subtract. When I am missing a part, I'm going to subtract. When I'm missing my whole, I'm going to add. So let's go ahead and subtract this problem. My ones place I can subtract. My tens place I'm going to need to borrow and add 10 over there in my tens place. 11 minus 8 is 3. I can't take 5 away from 1. I'm going to borrow again. Notice how I'm only borrowing one place value at a time. I'm solving and then I'm going back if I need to borrow. 11 minus 5 is 6. Put my comma in. 5 minus 4 is 1 and 5 minus 3 is 2. So this is going to be Susan. Susan is going to have to drive 21,637 miles. Let me go ahead and check my work. And the way I'm going to check, if I filled this into my empty space, we would see that 34,581 and 21,637 would add up to 56,218. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to check with addition and make sure that this in fact does add up to 56,218. So I'm going to go ahead here and I'm going to add. 1 plus 7 is 8. 8 plus 3 is 11. Carry my 1. 5 plus 1 is 6. 6 plus 6 is 12. Carry my 1. 1 plus 4 is 5. Plus 1 more is 6. And 3 plus 2 is 5. When I take a look at this sum, it does equal my whole, so I know that I did my work correctly. Susan is going to drive 21,637 miles. So that would be my answer down here in black. Notice for this problem, I drew a diagram to help me identify what I'm going to do. I was missing my part, and because I was missing a part, I was going to subtract my whole minus my part to find my missing part. Let's take a look at the next problem, and I want you to solve this problem. The first thing you're going to need to do is identify, are you missing your whole or are you missing your part? If you're missing your whole, you're going to add. If you're missing a part, you're going to subtract. Then you're going to solve your problem. Diagrams are very helpful for these problems. Julia collected 539,218 stamps and 218,762 pennies. How many more stamps than pennies did Julia collect? Go ahead and solve this problem. Some good keywords there that help me solve this problem is how many more stamps than pennies. So I have her total number of stamps, and I have her pennies, and I want to know how many more stamps than pennies. So I have a whole, that's my stamps. I have a part, that's my pennies, and I'm missing my other part. Because I have a whole and one part, I'm missing my other part, I'm going to have to subtract. Let's draw a quick diagram to show me what I'm really doing with this problem. So again, I have my whole here. This is going to be my stamps. I have my part. This is my pennies. and I'm missing my other part. So I'm going to be subtracting these two. In order for me to check my work after I subtract, I'm going to check with addition. So here's my subtraction, and when I subtracted, I got 320,456. In order for me to check my work, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add. I'm going to take 218,762 and I'm going to add 320,456 to it. And when I add these together, I get 539,218, which was the whole I started with. So my answer of how many more stamps than pennies did Julia collect would be 320,456 more stamps. That's a lot of stamps and a lot of pennies. All right, let's take a look at the next problem. There were 398,215 visitors to Magic Kingdom on Saturday and 569,872 visitors on Sunday. How many total visitors were there that weekend? Go ahead and solve this problem. For this problem, I want to know how many total visitors there were. So this is going to be my whole. This over here is one of my parts, and here is my other part. So in this case, I have both parts, and I'm missing my whole. I'm missing my total. So let's draw a quick diagram to show me what that would look like. I have my part of 398,215, my other part of 569,872, and I'm missing my total. So what I'm going to have to do with this problem is add. Let's go ahead and add and see what we get. And when we add these together, we get a total of 968,087 total people visited. So total visitors. We could always check our work with subtraction. We could take one of our parts and subtract it from the whole and make sure we get our other part. Addition, you guys don't seem to have as many issues with, but it's always good to check your work. All right, let's take a look at one more word problem. FSU has 80,315 students. FAMU has 32,783 students. How many more students attend FSU than FAMU? Go ahead and solve this problem. Okay, this problem, our question that we need to answer is how many more students? When we see how many more, it's generally going to be a subtraction problem. That's one of the good keys to look at. But we really want to make sure by taking a look at all of our steps. So FSU has, and this is just an estimate, Miss Ike made these up, 80,315 students. That's FSU. And then FAMU, they have 32,783, and I want to know how many more attended FSU than FAMU. So I have my whole 80,315. I have one part of 32,783, and I'm missing my other part. So this problem is going to be a subtraction problem. I'm going to show you what I did when I subtracted. So we have 5 minus 3, and that's going to give me 2. I can't take 1 away from 8, or 8 away from 1 rather, so I'm going to borrow from my neighbor. 11 minus 8 is going to give me 3. I can't take 7 away from 2. I would borrow from my 0, but I can't borrow from a 0. I have to go all the way over to my 8. That becomes a 7. This becomes a 10, and now I can borrow from my 10. It's going to become a 9, and I have 12. 12 minus 7 gives me 5. 9 minus 2 is 7, and 7 minus 3 is 4. So 47,532 more students. I'm just going to put more S. Now, in order for me to check my work, I'm going to check with addition and make sure that the 32,783 and 47,532 add up to what I started with for FSU's total. And when I check my work with addition, they do add up to that 80,315. So I know that what I found as my difference is correct. So there were 47,532 more students. We have one more skill we're going to take a look at quickly. These are comparing the value of our digits. So for this first problem, I want you to go ahead and solve this one. The value of the 7 in blank is blank times the value of the 7 in blank. Go ahead and identify the values of those 7s, which is greater, and fill in the blanks. Choose the correct response. All right, if we were to find the values, we would underline our 7s in here or rewrite those numbers and identify how much they're worth. This first 7 is worth 70,000. This other 7 over here is worth 700. Which is greater, 70,000 or 700? 70,000 is greater, so that number is going to go first. The other number is going to go second. Then we need to identify how many times greater. Well, I'm going from my hundreds place to my 10,000s place. So I'm moving 2 place values. I need to add 2 zeros, which means I need to multiply times 100. Okay. You have one more problem to solve. Here we go. We have 398,000, 621 and 183,295. And we want to talk about the value of the 2. Go ahead and choose the response for this question. All right, if we looked at the value of our 2, the value of our 2 is there, or our 2 is there and there. This first 2 is worth 20. This second 2 is worth 200. 200 is greater than 20, so that number is going to go first. The next number goes next. And I want to know how much greater. Well, when I'm going from 20 to 200, I need to multiply times 10. I'm talking about 1 place value change, increasing by 1 place value, adding 1 zero, so it's 10 times the value. That's our review for Chapter 1. There was a lot of stuff on that review. Make sure we're practicing our addition, our subtraction. Make sure we're checking our work. Next up is Chapter 2, multiplication.